Okay, let's see if this thing is working. It says it's recording in the corner. And hey, look at here.
Can you see me?
Yes, I can. I'm not gonna say, can you see me back?
No, of course not. No, I had to wrap up in. I know I'm not dressed to perfect, but I was cold this morning. It's 48. It was 48 degrees at 7 o'clock this morning, girl.
And my dear friend that I love, I'm sitting here in my pajamas. So let us discuss early morning Zoom, and let's learn how to do this thing.
I know, right? Hey, how did you like my first episode?
I loved it so much. I woke up this morning and I started checking everything, and I got on Twitter, and I'm like, look at that sneaky friend of mine, and you posted it, and I woke up and I'm going, oh my gosh, I can't wait to listen. And I went boom and started, and I was like, that's my woman.
How did you like that? I love that music I used. It's a, I don't remember what the title of it is, but it's a calm harp type thing. I loved it.
I like it too. It's perfect. And you were just so natural. It was just like you and I talking on the phone.
I know, but I was a little nervous, I'm telling you.
I don't think you should be.
But after I did it, I'm telling you, I was so excited.
Well, I think that you challenging me with this Zoom situation is amazing. And so if you say I helped you get on the Anchor podcast a bit, now you're taking me to the next level and getting me on Zoom and us figuring this out together.
Hey, I'm telling you, I was going, when I, last night after I did it, when we got on Zoom, I was going to be like, girl, I gotta tell you. You saw it.
Yeah, I already saw it. When I clicked on it, and then I retweeted it out, and I was like, I'm so proud of you.
I saw that, and I've got 2 plays, you and somebody else. I don't know who yet, but I got to figure out how to put it out on all the platforms. I'm not going to sponsor it yet until I get more comfortable with it.
Well, I think that it's just a growing process. Anytime we try anything new, like with the Zoom, we're sitting here recording ourselves right now on not only audio, but video. That is a huge step.
Yeah. Are you actually recording right now, or is it just?
I'm recording.
Oh, okay. So welcome to our official podcast, folks. This is a dual episode. We're just starting, like I said, I titled mine, Zoom Test and Fun Stuff.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is about what it is, like us learning together, us challenging each other, and you giving me the boldness to like get out there and do the video for this podcast. Like, I have been hiding and giving so many excuses as to why I'm not podcasting on YouTube. And today is the day we're going to show up on YouTube and look at us.
I know. I'm going to do a blog post about that with that first episode embedded, linked in it, because, and I'm going to do, the reason I wanted I've got your podcast URL. If you can send me the link to your Amazon author page too, I'm going to do a brief little show notes thing with all the links in it for the blog post. And I would suggest you do that too, because you got my links. I would suggest you do that too. That way people on your blog, because you've got like over 2,000 followers, that can mean more listeners.
I know. And so yesterday you sent me that text and you're like, put the URL in there. And I look at the boys and Eli, we were out eating Mexican, and I'm like, guys, Ian is challenging me. I'm like, why haven't I ever thought of this before? I'm like, that's why we should surround ourselves with a writer community.
Exactly.
With other authors, because we learn so much from each other. And then you'll say something, I'm like, duh, why haven't I done that?
I know, and then you'll say something on your podcast or something, and I'm like, duh. And when you started talking about researching for events to market, I'm going to tell you, the Holy Spirit was working with me. And I had to go back and listen to it again because I cried.
You cried because you've been hiding too, just like me.
Yes.
We got to quit hiding. Let's just quit hiding. Let's just quit hiding.
Yeah.
In your podcast today, well, last night when you wrote it and read it, today when I listened to it, you said we've got to not only write, but share our voice and show ourselves.
That was unscripted.
So that's the Holy Spirit calling us both out, going, show yourself.
That was so unscripted. I've got to write my ads for like Electric Eclectic, my Attorney Faith, and I'm going to do an ad for my featured book of the week column on my blog too.
That's cool. Yeah. It took me probably 200 plus episodes before my 16-year-old Solomon, who I often talk about Solomon and Sam, Solomon goes, Mama, why haven't you said, find me on Amazon? Why haven't you made an ad yet? And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. He was like, well, you really need to do that. I listen to podcasts all the time. They're always pulling people to their sites. He was like, Mama, that's what people do. And so here I go, listening to my 16-year-old. I mean, it's like you said, it's like you got to do this first. You got to get yourself out there. Then you got to build on it. Then you've got to grow. And I think that that's the natural process of any type of learning experience.
Yeah. It is. And let me tell you something. I don't know if this had anything to do with this, but the other night, Friday night, Saturday morning sometime, I had this weird dream. I was texting you about it, and I was going to tell you about it. I was on an airplane.
And you had the shorter flights?
Yeah. It was like I fly there, fly back. I'd walk somewhere. I don't even know where we were walking to, but the seats were more comfortable. My daughter was sitting next to me, and then this other lady across the aisle was talking to me about something about writing. And then there for a second, I was on the Greyhound bus seat. It's like, I don't know why. I don't know what that meant, but the airplane was the important element of the dream. And I'm like, okay, what does this mean, Lord? You know?
Did God reveal it to you yet?
No.
I'm wondering if Anchor is your airplane.
You know what? I wonder that too. And I journaled about that. That may be.
And I'm wondering if you have a shorter flight because nobody probably listens to my long, extensive, long-winded podcast. And maybe the Holy Spirit is telling you, maybe you should do the short and the sweet version.
I don't know about that. I think maybe, I don't know about that much, but I think you're right about Anchor being the airplane.
Yeah.
And the short, sweet was maybe for the first episode.
Yeah, to get yourself out there too, and to understand the editing tools. Now, I think out of the different podcasts, like I've been looking at them before I picked Anchor, I think Anchor is the easiest one for me to use because I'm not tech savvy.
Well, I'm not tech savvy either, but I cannot record messages to you because with VoiceOver, I got on your podcast because you're on my favorites, and there's a record button and a message button. I double tap both of them, and neither one of them worked.
Huh, did you? Okay, so I practiced it and I sent you a message through there last night. Did you get it? Did it work?
I got it, I got it, but I couldn't send you one back. And it's because it's an accessibility issue. That, you know, and I mentioned that on the podcast, but I did figure out there is an unlabeled button to the left of the listen button when I use VoiceOver.
Okay.
That button, I found the record button to add new segments. And I found invite to record. I didn't call anybody, but I did test that out. So that does work.
Well, yeah. So the thing that I've had problems with Anchor is that when it's time to invite somebody in, if you're just using Anchor, if they don't set their microphones and say, you know, I don't even know what it shows up because it was such a long time ago when I did it. But it's like you have to actually hit accept, or it's not going to record anything. It'll show that the other person is sitting there with you. You'll hear this little beep sound. You'll know that a new person has joined the podcast. But if they don't hit enable microphone, they're going to be sitting there all day. And then we have to stop. We have to pull back up, stop, pull back up. So I've had quite a few connection problems with Anchor, just getting people on to actually start the conversation.
Yeah, and they probably don't know that you got to allow your microphone.
So that's my fault, because what I did is I made an intro video that said, how do we join a call on Anchor? And I failed to talk about that because the step was like far removed, like at the back of my mind. And so I've got to go back in and create a brand new tutorial video for
everyone. Maybe do that as a podcast too.
I should, and I should do the podcast, and I should do the YouTube video again. I got to update it.
Or maybe do the video and download it, and then
see, there you go. Yeah, you're right.
Like you did with the yeah, exactly. I got your the interview that you did with me. I got that. Like I said, I may not even do that today. I may do that tomorrow. So that way I'm not clogging the podcast up with episodes.
So what I learned is that the video files are so long, and so I couldn't put it as an attachment. I had to put it into Google as a link, but you still got it?
Yeah, I was able to get it from Google Drive, which which is kind of interesting because like PDFs, I was having trouble viewing the PDF from Google Drive that you put on Facebook, but I was able to get the audio and download it. And
okay, good.
I have it, I have a folder now, even if it's in my documents right now, and I may wind up moving that audio folder anyway, that audio file anyway, but I have the folder that says podcast info.
Well, hopefully this one's recording, since this is the first time we're doing it.
Hold on, let me see.
It would be crazy. Hey, you know what though? If it's not recording and we're flubbing it and it's all messed up, at least I know that we're trying, and we're at least getting to talk this morning in our pajamas. I don't know. I see them.
No, it's not recording. Hold on. You want me to record it?
Yep.
All right. Ready?
Yep. Go ahead and try it.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Let's see. Hold on.
So we are learning Zoom, and we're figuring out how to record. So in my left-hand corner,
it says, please request recording permission from the host. And you may have to go down and click the record button.
Okay, it's showing that I'm recording it. I'm wondering if because it says recording in the left-hand screen of mine. I'm wondering if I've been recording it the whole time as the host, and then I can share it with you, and then you can put it on your YouTube.
Probably, because you're the meeting host.
So guys, if you are just catching us, we're trying to learn how to Zoom podcast all at the same time. And by us doing this, hopefully it's going to inspire you to get out there and share your voice and get on Zoom and not hide. And
exactly.
So how many videos have you made?
Me?
Yeah.
I did like 3, I think 2 or 3 when I was in college. I haven't done a lot of videos because I would need help with doing the video itself, because me being blind, I don't know if, I'd have to know if the camera's aimed right and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I've got like 3 videos, I think, on my YouTube.
Well, now's the time to not worry, I guess, about the video, because where you're sitting right now, I can see you clearly.
Okay, good.
Probably mine is probably angled up and crazy looking. I'm telling you, the videos that I made, I had people, one time this lady, she messaged me and she said, you realize you're holding your phone wrong, and that's why you've got all these black lines on the sides. Can you please turn your phone for all of your future videos? And I'm like, oh my gosh, is that why? I had no clue. Like the tech parts for me.
Wow.
I'm like, look, I'm out there, I'm trying, give me a break, thanks for the help. And then I turn my phone, and then I made a video this morning and I forgot to turn it the way that she told me. So I still forget stuff.
Yeah, are you using your laptop or your phone to do the Zoom?
Well, I'm using my laptop for this one, even though I did download the Zoom app on my phone. The reason why is because I don't have a phone stand yet. You know, like those $15 phone stands?
Why don't you get a pop socket?
What's that? See, that's why I surround myself with brilliant people.
Because my daughter was one told me about it. They're like, I think $10, $5 or $10. and you put it, it has the adhesive on the back. You put it on the back of your phone, and then you can extend it out and stand your phone up sideways in like the landscape setting.
Pop socket.
Yes. Hold on.
I'm Googling this thing. See now, guys, if you stick around with me and Ann's going to give us all kinds of things that we need to go out and do.
You see?
Okay, my students had that mess on their phone, and I never knew what that junk was. I thought it was like a hand grip or something.
No.
Oh, wait, your audio's gone.
What?
Oh, there you go. I couldn't hear what you said. It was mumbled. Yeah, it's mumbled. It sounds like you're underwater. It sounds like you're in a fish tank. Maybe it's because where you're standing.
Hold on.
So pop socket.
Is it better?
Keep talking to me.
Is that better? Is it maybe the internet connection? I don't know why it's doing that. The wind's blowing.
There you go. You're very clear where you're sitting right there. Maybe it's just where your microphone's positioned on your computer.
Probably. But yeah, like I was, and it may have been because the wind's blowing, it might have messed up the Wi-Fi.
Okay, so pop socket. Guys, let's learn from Ann today. Ann, give us your wisdom.
Yep. My daughter was the one that was telling me she wanted one for her tablet. It's too heavy for tablets, but for iPhone, or for any kind of phone,
okay, when you walk away, like everything goes.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. I hear you back.
Sorry, I was putting my phone back. I was putting my phone back going off at me while we were talking. But the pop socket actually does help. My daughter uses it. And what you can do too while you're on the phone, you can pull it out and you can put like 2 fingers, one on each side of it, and it'll help keep it from sliding out of your hands too.
Right. Yeah, that's why I decided to use the computer today for our first Zoom, because I do the podcast on my computer too, like when I'm recording, and I'm going to also practice like shared screens and see if I can do some things like that for YouTube, so I can get like fancy one day. Who knows? You know how you can see them where they'll show like a resource and they'll research and they'll pull things up.
Yeah.
Yeah. One day I want us to try something like that. Today I just want to make sure this thing's recorded.
I know.
Let's see if we can get it to work. So what led you to the like how long have you been listening to podcasts, Ann?
I've been listening since February, I think. I found you on Twitter and I found a link to your podcast or something about your podcast, and then I looked on Overcast, which is my podcatcher that I listen to most of my podcasts on, because not everything's on Anchor. So, and I found you on Overcast, and I'm like, you know what? And I prayed about it. And when Tanya said, let's see what she will be led by the Holy Spirit to talk about today, I'm like, oh my gosh!
Yes.
This is where I need to be.
Yes. Yes. And I know the thing that's funny about Tanya is that one day Tanya came to work and she had a bird as an image. It shows up as her profile picture and she doesn't know where the bird came from. And I'm like, are you kidding me? She was like, no, where did this bird? It's just random on my phone. And I was like, that's the Lord telling you we're just like birds. We're like his messengers. And so that's where like some of that behind the scenes stuff in the intro, that was the exact day that I wrote the intro. That's where she's the bird singing the song. It's joking that conversation Tanya and I had about her crazy profile picture turned out to be a bird. And she honestly did not upload it into her phone. So she has crazy stuff that happens all the time. I love her dearly. But before my podcast, you were podcast listening to everybody under the sun. A lot
of people. I started listening last year.
Yeah. And so when you talked to me in your interview, you were like, I think I might want a podcast one day.
Yeah, I was praying about it, and the idea came to me, you know, why don't I share people's inspirational journeys? Because people have a story to tell. And I love the conversational side of podcasting. Now, there was one podcast I got rid of, which was Print Run, because when they started talking about the London Book Fair, I got bored quickly. And I'm like, you know what? This is agents talking agent business. No.
But you like listening to stories. You like listening to the author inspiration, how they got their start.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even authors, entrepreneurs. That's why I like the Author Stories podcast with Hank Garner. And he's the one that gave me the idea for the blog post, because that's what he does with his show.
So I have seen people when they take on Instagram. So I learned that on Instagram, the links don't work unless you're in the bio. I got to research more about it if I can. I don't think there's a bypass way for that. But I've got some podcasters on Instagram that do MMA, UFC. They got like some different fighters on there. Mm-hmm. And they have the coolest website. And it shows all of that stuff embedded. And you told me that yesterday. Even though I've seen models, I've never tried it myself.
Because if you put a YouTube video up on your blog post, or you put your link to your Amazon page, your books on Amazon, it will embed like a sample link, a buy button.
I've done the Amazon links in the past, but I haven't done the podcast embedding where it shows like the actual toolbar. Like that's what I want to learn how to do. Like
when you do that with WordPress, when you put a long link up there with WordPress will embed the little player, so you can play it right there on the site. It does that for YouTube too. Like when I've done my Dan Seals song videos for podcasts, like with A Good Rain and The Banker.
Right.
Podcast, it embedded the YouTube link. It embedded the player.
So are you going to use your podcast? So your podcast focus, you're going to do author interviews, entrepreneur interviews.
Right. I'm going to do special episodes with tips. One of the things I want to talk about is character development. So I'm going to register for that Reedsy course to do that and take notes on that. Because when I talk about that, I want to talk about how I got started as a writer. I don't want to go into the emotional abuse side too much because I don't want to, I don't want to do that negative connotation.
Right.
I will mention it briefly. Should I mention the fact that I thought about the fact that I turned to Dan Seals' music for healing and comfort and inspiration, like I did on my blog.
Right.
I think I should, because I think, God led me to his music for a reason.
I wonder too, like with the podcast, with the interviews, should you also share some of that wonderful poetry you've been writing this month?
That's what I'm thinking too.
Like, are you going to do some excerpts? Are you going to do some readings? Are you going to do some things like that?
I don't know, because with the Braille display, it's a little bit more
tricky.
It's a little tricky, but I mean, if I get practice and I memorize some stuff, I might do a little bit. I don't know though, because I'm not the best reader. I don't read out loud very well.
I'm not a good memorizer. I can't memorize. And like the people back home, when they would ask me to sing in church, I couldn't even memorize the lyrics. I had to carry up the sheet with all the lyrics on it while I'm singing. Does,
except me. I listen when our choir director is up there standing there practicing, or practicing with us when we're sitting on the pews, or when we're up there in the choir and he's standing in front of us singing with us. I listen to him and I listen to other people around me, try to get the words as much as I can. And then if it's a song that I know is recorded, I'll use, and I'm not going to say her name because she will go off. Let's just say Lexi. I'll tell Lexi to play that certain hymn on Amazon Music a few times to kind of get the words down if I know that it's recorded. So even if it's not recorded in the same arrangement that we use, it's still the same song. So I'll do that, and half the time I'll get the song stuck in my head.
Yeah. Maybe the nervous thing. I know that podcasting for me is not scripted. Like I just get on and talk. You can tell that on my morning drive to work. Like I just feel like the Holy Spirit will give us what we need to say to help inspire somebody, for them to try something new, for them to take a challenge. And none of it's scripted at all.
I don't want it to be scripted, because when it's scripted, it's stilted.
Yeah.
It's dodgy. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. But
I do think having the framework for the questions is good as a way, as just a guide to let the other person know these are some topics that we may cover. But
that's why I called it baseline questions. What did you think of my framework, by the way?
I really liked it. And it was very conversational, even in the way that you presented the material. So, yeah, I think you got it clear, put it across there for anybody that's going to be reading it, that they know what it's all about.
Yeah, I used yours as a baseline model, but then I went into my podcast planner and I went through the interview questions, and that one about if you could have a conversation with anyone. Yeah. That one actually, that I was telling you about, when Charles on her Ask Win podcast, she asks that same question in a different way.
I love that question though.
Yeah, because I wrote a blog post about it. I would love to have had coffee or tea with Dan Seals and told him how his music inspired me.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to, like, of all the people, I would probably, that's a tough one though. That's why that one is good for somebody to think about.
Yeah, you don't have to answer that now.
Like, of course, so that's why it's good that it's in that list instead of like springing it on somebody, because then I would go like, well, I would want to have tea with Jesus. I would want to see my mom and daddy.
That too. I mean, every Christian.
Yeah. I want to see my mama. I want to see my mama and daddy again. Like, I think about like all of, people.
I would want to see Mima and Papa. I'd want to see my Uncle Junior. That my Uncle Ronnie, who I remember as a kid. Ooh, girl.
But it's good to have those kind of questions, so that way if you are having them to say a question, like to answer a question that's going to bring back a memory, then they're prepared for that.
Yeah.
They
don't have to answer that question, and like I said, some of that I may put optional there. I mean, I'll ask the question, and if they don't feel comfortable, that's fine. But
I think optional is good, because like even today I received an email back that said, after reviewing your framework, you're a Christian podcast. I'm sorry that I'm not going to be able to be on your show. And I did include optional on the prayer in the Bible verse piece. Yeah, I saw how you wrote that. But I think that having optional, there, they can have the opportunity to email and say, well, maybe I don't like this question. Maybe if you ask me about this, like what I'm specifically working on at the moment, or things that I have coming up in the future. I think those are really good questions, because I think authors, we're always crafting and thinking and planning ahead and having something in the works 2 or 3 books down the road. Sometimes that can be our downfall, that we got so much that we want to write at one time. So
yeah, I know. But girl, I don't know if you believe in angels coming to people, but
yes.
Oh my gosh. So I don't know if our listeners believe in it. I've got to tell you something later.
Okay. Oh, later. She always does the hook. I got to tell you something later.
I'm going to say it now, but with all the listeners, you don't know who believes in what, and I don't want to make people think I'm crazy.
See, that's the thing. Let the Holy Spirit lead that thing. But
I know, that's why I said later, because I knew that not everybody, and the Holy Spirit's like, okay, you can tell her.
Yes,
but not in public. So, yeah.
So, podcasting, for those of you that, let's go back to like talking about what led you to challenge me for Zoom. Where did this Zoom thing come from? Because, Ann, you know that this is scary for me.
Well, the thing is, I don't know how to do Skype. And I'm challenging myself, too, because with the Hadley School for the Blind has this writer circle that I join. They have it every month. Some months I forget to join it. They started with Take It Out with a technical thing. So when I started joining the discussions, I'm like, okay, they use Zoom. So why don't I try to use it for the podcast? And then you're the one that told me you can download the video and upload it to Anchor as the audio.
Well, we're going to try it. My friend and I tried it in my office. We tried, and it worked for us. And I'm like, okay, we're going to try it. So, and I'm hoping this is working. If not, we've had a good conversation.
Yeah, we have.
I'm like, that's the thing. The word challenge helps me.
It does me too. It does me too. Because when you started throwing out the challenges, let's just say I got I was gonna say I can't do this. I'm not a poet.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
But I've got to tell you, you're gonna be like, okay, you got an encourager.
But it's true though. You've got
to send you somebody to encourage you. I've got some spiritual experiences. I don't share with everybody.
But you know that with poetry, that to me, that's the in and the out of the writing day. Like if I'm really busy and I still have that itching and urge to write, writing poetry does that for me. It still gives me that outlet, but I don't have to be right in the middle of writing a novel.
Yeah.
But I'm still writing.
I don't know if you can hear that. My phone's
no.
Okay, my phone, on Twitter, I have this. I was added to a group after being interviewed by another author.
Well, aren't you fancy?
I'm not fancy. We're just a group of the person who set up the group now calls us a group of weirdos.
Hey, that's okay. I think we all have. I texted my best friend. So I told you the story about my best friend's, my Tanya set. My best friend Tanya that I grew up with, that's my closest friend in the entire universe and will always be my best friend forever. Last night we were texting about we can't be around non-weird people. It's like it just doesn't work. Like
a group of weirdos, right?
Might as well. Let's own it.
Writers can get away with it though.
I think we're just. I don't know. I would love to have a shirt.
We can get away with that as long as we don't let it enter into our daily, our daily interactions with other people. We can get away with it.
I don't know. I was really weird yesterday in the middle of Kohl's. And the boy's face, they turned bright red. It was hilarious. We got up to the register, and the woman and I started going back and forth, and we were rhyming. And she was like, "You're rhyming." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a poet. You didn't know it." And the boys got so embarrassed. Their faces turned bright red. I was embarrassing them in the middle of Kohl's. And we had the best conversation with this lady who was ringing us up. And I'm like, "Guys, listen, y'all got to get used to mama by now. Like, come on, you're 16, you're 11, you've been around this weird woman long enough." And I think that's what the podcast is letting me do. The podcast is letting me be more vocal, letting me, I think it helps me to get out of my comfort zone.
Oh, yeah. It's helping me to get out of my comfort zone, too.
So go ahead.
Believe you me, this is not something, because I was getting frustrated with the app because I couldn't figure things out, and I was going to give up on it. And of course, I get this. Why don't you try this? Why don't you try it again? You can do this.
Yeah.
Of course. And then of course I'm like, okay, I can't record a voice message, but now if somebody sends me a message, I can, like with a question, I can add it to the podcast.
Yeah, that's why I say, so email me or, do that, because then you can always download it. You can get around it.
Yeah.
You can get around it. I know that with yours, you were like a pro. How long did it take you to put it together? Because it was like you were a pro.
I started it, I've been working on it all weekend. Really, I started it earlier today. The first one, I did the intro and exit on the computer, and you can't add music. The intro and the welcome and listener challenge, you can't add music on the computer. At least I hadn't figured out how.
So you did that on your phone?
I did that one on my phone because I did that first one and it kind of saved it as a draft, and then I just built the episode from there.
But to me it was like boom, it was done. You got it, and it's up there. It's for the world to see and hear.
I know. I listened to it to make sure that it was what I made sure the episode, because I've even figured out how to arrange the different segments so that they're in the right place.
Oh, so see, that is easy then. So you've got it all figured out now.
Well, not all of it, but I'm getting there.
And when you start getting sponsors, then you'll add the sponsor segment, and you'll start getting paid for sponsorships.
Yeah, but I'm gonna add my own little ads in there too. I'm gonna see if we'll get on Facebook and go to the Electric Eclectic authors group and see if Paul, or I may email Paul and see if he has a specific ad he wants me to use.
That's cool, because then you can help promote.
Yes, that's the point. I want to do it. And then I had to shorten my Journey of Faith blurb for Lulu, but a friend of mine is actually going to get it up there for me. Haven't gotten the attached file from Lulu yet, but she's going to get it up there for me, and I don't think I'm going to want anything changed, but I'm going to go ahead and have her hit publish, because I think everything should be as it is, because once I've got the manuscript file, the cover files, once I send it to her, of course I'm going to have to pay her for it, but once I sent it to her, she's doing all the other stuff for me. So now once it's up in Lulu, I've got an ISBN. Now it's going to be in the bookstore, so I can start scheduling that stuff too.
Yeah.
Now I don't have to start keeping a more consistent calendar.
Yes.
I was not doing that because I was just writing and doing social media, but now with the podcast.
Oh, calendar's key.
I might have to keep calendar. I'm going to have a block out some time for writing.
Mm-hmm. The calendar is key for me because it sends me notifications too.
Yes, I've noticed that. You'll be in Outlook or whatever, and you'll do and I'll get this ding, ding, ding.
You've got this coming up. That way you don't miss something that you've said, because I get caught up. Like I will get caught up making something, like making an image on Canva, or I'll get caught up reading an article. Next thing I know, 30 minutes has gone away. And so the calendar really helps me. But when you need the calendar, so that way when you're planning your podcast interviews, so here's what happened with me. There was one week where I did 3 podcast interviews in a week. By the end of the week, I was completely worn down and exhausted. And I realized that I put too much on myself. Now, you might be able to handle more than me.
Because I'm not working full time right now. Writing is this is my only career right now.
So it's just based on your time commitment.
Right.
Because what I found, first I have to read the material that the person, I have to read their work, so that way I can actually have an intelligent conversation about what they've done, and then I can share what I love about their book and what I found, relevant for the listeners, and without trying to spoil everything. So I'm having to read the material, then I'm having to research the person, I'm having to get on all of their sites, I'm going for background. That way, if I'm in the middle of the interview and then there's something that I've researched, oh, well, I saw that on your blog, or I saw that on Twitter, I see how you're working Twitter, tell how you're building this. So I'm having to research all that. I was like worn out that week when I was doing multiple people.
You know what? You don't have to put those out right after they're done. You can schedule those to go out. If you do like the 3 interviews in a week, or you can schedule those to go out later on, so you don't have to try to put them all out the same day.
Yeah, a podcaster emailed me and was like, how do you do them daily? Because he told me he rented a booth, and he was like, I do 5 podcasts on a Saturday, and then I schedule them out. And I'm like, I feel like I just do them like right then on the fly, and then I put them out. I got an email from one of the people that I interviewed, and they're like, wow, that was fast. I can't believe you got the link up that fast. I wasn't ready to even promote it. So I think maybe other podcasters don't return it as fast as I do. But I just feel like with my time, I need to go ahead and just send it out there to the world on point, like right then. Are you going to schedule yours out?
Well, the first one I'm not, unless she wants me to, because it's one of our Electric Eclectic authors, and she is she's from Greece, so I'm having to schedule it. Like I've scheduled it 10 o'clock on Thursday morning. See, she's launching her book, and then the other one, there's 2 people launching. They're doing 2 different versions of the same book, so I'm gonna do a featured book of the week for Karen J. Mossman because she doesn't like doing interviews, but Karina Cantus, she wants to come on the show and talk about her book. I don't read erotica. She writes hers like that.
Right.
I'll let her tell about what her book is about, but we'll talk about her other author services too because she does do other author services, and maybe I can have her throw in some tips.
Yeah, I think that's really important for podcasters, like to understand that if we have someone on our show, they could be of many religious backgrounds, they could be of, just they write different from us, but they have a story to tell. And they have valuable information to share with us and to respect, all people, and to have them on the show just to give them that platform to talk about their author journey. I think that's important that we continue to do that. And just not limit ourselves to, who we have as a guest on our show, like to be really open and welcoming to everybody, just to hear the story and give them that chance to speak. Because you never know in the future what seeds we're planting with them. So I think that's cool. But the calendar, keeping all of that up for you, you're gonna see how that calendar is gonna come in handy for you.
I know. Now when Sharon's here, I'm not gonna be able to do very many interviews.
Right. And that's why I don't I'll look at my calendar and when I send out the invitations, so when I'll send out a massive blast, would you like to be featured on the podcast? And I send it out to all of my sites. And then I'll start getting people on LinkedIn messaging me, people on Twitter, people on Instagram, and they'll go, oh, I have an author, I'm a publicist, I have somebody that I want you to meet. Or it'll just be the author themselves. They'll say, oh, I want to be on the podcast, how can we arrange it? That's when I'll give them a week window. I'll say, well, I have this week open because I'm only scheduling one interview a week. I'll give them those multiple days, and I'll give them any time after 4 p.m. Eastern because, I work all day, and that's kind of like my downtime. So I have to give up my sleep for the podcast interview before I start homeschooling. So I have that very short window when I schedule. And if they can't meet that week, then we have to really extend it out. I'm already pushed. I only have July left.
Wow.
Yep, July, because I only do one a week. July, I think, is my last month for interviews because I think August is going to be a whirlwind for me with the book getting ready to be released in September, that I really need to focus on my launch team. And so I'm like, then I'm going to be split brained. I'm going to be having to worry, all of this behind the scenes with the podcast, with interviews, or do I really focus on the launch of the book? So I think in August, I'm really going to be launching. I'm in that launch phase heavy.
Yeah, I need to get, I found on Twitter, somebody else is going to be reviewing one of my books, and I got to look and see which one, because I was mentioned, it was there were 2 other books with me, but I think they were, I'm not sure which one because it didn't say in the tweet, but I'm like, oh, wow, this is really exciting. So I need to I'm going to have to, tomorrow at 5 o'clock, I've got an interview with David Calvert. I don't know if you've heard of the podcast Car Thoughts with David.
Nope.
He's on Anchor. I'm sorry?
I was going to tell you, the only podcast I listen to political podcasts, and I listen to Joe Rogan podcast.
I don't do political because my political views are different from other people's.
Right. And I don't talk about them. I don't talk about my political views on the podcast, but I don't listen to author podcasts. I have a small window. My husband will be listening to podcasts. My son listens to podcasts all the time. But I don't listen to writing podcasts. I told you before, I need to get better at that. But tell me his name again.
David Calvert. His podcast is Car Thoughts with David. He's on Anchor too.
Yeah.
I am going to recommend that he listen to your podcast because he's one of these people. I know his audio is really low, and I'm gonna his audio is really low too.
He might not recognize it.
He may not, because he's in his car. He's in his car when he does his solo shows.
Yeah.
Once a week. He's doing it once a week now. He was doing it every day, but now he's had some health problems and stuff. But just pray for him, because
I am.
he was talking about he went to a film festival and he only sold 2 copies of his sci-fi book. Which, even 2 copies is 2 copies, and he still has ways to sell. I'm going to give him some tips when I talk to him tomorrow at 5. Oh, that reminds me. I better put that on my calendar.
Do it. Put it on that calendar, Ann.
I will.
Get using that calendar. Okay.
I'm sorry?
I just found him on Anchor. Okay, so
he does all kinds of interviews. I mean, if you want to find him on LinkedIn too, he is under Dual Podcasts on LinkedIn. If you want to be interviewed on his or invite him on yours, he's pretty open to that, I think. But he also does interviews over the phone and over Skype.
Okay.
And I told him I was on Anchor, so I favorited him. So hopefully he will, and I gave him my cell phone number. So hopefully we'll be able to pull it off. Because he does interviews with all kinds of people. He does. He had this one guy that works in a winery that was talking about women in history making wines and stuff.
Uh-huh.
To other coaches, like Say It. What is it? Say It something. I don't remember. You'd have to look back at the later episodes. But he's talked to several different people, and he talked to this one lady about her haircutting business and how she likes to give back. And he's he's based out of Charlotte.
North Carolina. Yeah, definitely going to pick up him. My friend is doing that. She has a podcast, and she's interviewing anybody, everybody, not just, she's not a writer yet. She just started a blog last year. So she is a writer, but she's not publishing yet. She wants to publish, but she's out there just interviewing the masses. And, I think that's really cool to give people that opportunity too, like to have a podcast where they can listen. You're an expert on the podcast world though, because you've been such a listener for so long.
Honey, I'm a podcast junkie.
Yeah. But that's good for you. That's good because then you kind of know what works and you know what doesn't work.
I know I was listening to the Bossed Up podcast with Emily Aries. She does short episodes, like 40 minutes or less. She does interviews on Monday, and then she does a Bossed Up tip, like a career conundrum or some other tip. She does that on Thursdays, and she has a hotline where she does her where people can leave voicemails about career conundrums or boss moves. And which I'm gonna listen to her podcast. She's probably got one. I think she did one today. I'm going to listen to a podcast, and I'm going to do her hotline, and I'm going to record a boss move about the podcast, about my podcast, because I think that's a boss move for a writer. And she says her motto is "We lift as we climb," and I love her. Wow. I found her through the Ask Win podcast, and I love what she does. I really do. She's actually got a Bossed Up book coming out next month.
But so you have the research behind you. Do you feel like that's going to make you like ahead of the game going into this podcast world?
Maybe. I don't know.
I think it will.
Possibly. I think it will. Plus, not only that, I'm sticking my neck out.
The thing is, we're trying new things.
Exactly.
And we can show everybody out there that, one, you can overcome a fear. You can overcome these obstacles, whatever they may be. You can work around them, and you can figure it out.
Right.
But it is, you're sticking your neck out there. You got to put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm. And I start when I finish. Even if I get frustrated, I walk away from it. I let it go for a little while, and then I come back. I'm always coming back.
That's that determination.
Yep.
And to me, so here's what I also love about podcasting or YouTube. You'll resonate with certain people. You'll get your own tribe. You'll get people that say, oh, Ann's my girl. I love Ann. And then they might listen to Jennifer and they'll be like, no, Jen Lowry writes, that's not my podcast. And they'll go to another one, and then they'll find valuable information from them on another one. That's what I love about social media, is that we're not going to resonate with everybody, but we may pull in someone new and then they become a part of our community or author life. If it wasn't for the podcast, and I wouldn't have met you, I wouldn't have met Pooja, I wouldn't have met Daniel and Dawn, and Kay. The people that I have interviewed.
Oh my gosh, I wouldn't have met Kay if it weren't for me being on your launch team.
I mean, for real. Just major, yes.
I was blessed by that interview with Kay. I'm like, you know what? She is one I want to connect with too.
Kay is lovely.
Oh my gosh, she is. She's, and I think what she has is an autoimmune disorder.
And what I love about Kay is that she's now bold in telling her story. And the platform of the podcast allowed her to do that first before then carrying it out to the church meeting that she's going to be a speaker at.
Wow. You know what? I want to eventually interview her for my podcast.
She's awesome. She's amazing. I want to get her
on my podcast because
We connected through Anchor.
Okay, thank you.
And Pooja too. Okay, Pooja, I'm reading her book right now, so I got Pooja's book. I'm holding it up in my little screen here. Pooja is just the best encourager, cheerleader. I love Pooja. She's a great sister in Christ. And I'm telling you, without the podcast, I would have been so isolated.
I'm going to tell you, even if I don't make it to church, my podcast and Happy Renewal Year is my church. Because, I wish I had Happy Renewal Year last year when I went through that when I separated from my last husband, and I felt guilty for making that same mistake again. But you know what? Like I said, later on, after we get done with Zoom and we get on Anchor, or I call you to tell you this, you're going to be like, yeah, you had an encourager. Because, yeah, oh man, I want to tell you so bad, but with people watching on YouTube, I don't want to make people feel crazy.
But I'm just happy you're reading Happy Renewal Year, because I love the devotionals that I'm self-publishing. I always feel like I'm going to self-publish those. I don't think that I would do, that's just my thing. I want to be able to put one out every December. I'm doing the author challenge one in December.
I got to get that one. I got the Everyday Teacher Challenge. I don't know why, because I'm not a teacher, but I wanted to read it. And there may be some things that I can do in my because I want to be a writing mentor. And I asked a friend of mine who actually went to the Georgia Academy for the Blind like I did. I asked him to help me do some research and find out who I need to talk to find out if I can work with any of the students. But maybe the Everyday Teacher Challenge, I may have something in that. There may be something in that for me too. Because I do that for, writers.
So in the future, I want to create webinars.
Don't ask me anything about that because I don't know.
So I have a connection already who is going to be coming back on the show, who's doing webinars, and she's been trained in webinars. And I'm like, all right, so you learn everything. She's going through her first ones now, and I'm excited to do it. And I'm actually going to be as a participant now in webinars. Have you ever done any of the author webinars?
Yeah, and there's one thing, it was kind of difficult for me to do the Q&A because if you got a slow connection, you may have a little bit of a problem. Well, I had a boat anchor for a laptop anyway, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, because I had a RAM on my Toshiba. Like I said, it became a boat anchor I had that one since 2010. That was the first one I bought. Anyway, but one of the things they're going to do at the end of the webinar is they're going to try to get you to pay for their software. Yeah, so watch out for that. But there are some really interesting things. They're free webinars, and then you get on their mailing list.
Yeah, I signed up for 2, because I'm on spring break this week, I signed up for 2 author webinars because one, I need to learn more about. It's like advanced secrets of publicity.
That's why I do author podcasts.
And then the other one I signed up for is the very next day, and it's like what to do if you have a book event, how to handle yourself at a book event. and they've done hundreds of book events, and I just want to hear their wisdom and expertise. So I'm going to start trying some webinars and just be a participant. And then I'm going to say, okay, Lord, maybe it's my turn. Let's get on here and do some webinars and share out tips and journeys along the way. But I want to do that next year. That's like my long-term plan. I want to get the author challenge up. I want to get some more experiences under my belt, and then turn in 2020 for webinars.
But girl, you keep throwing out poetry challenges, and I took them up.
You know, poetry anthology.
What did you think of that creative dreaming little? I wanted to write it as a song. I heard the melody, but it sounds kind of repetitive to me. But when I looked at it again, I'm like, I don't need to change that.
Yep, you don't need to change it at all. I love that one.
Yeah.
My thing about like doing the poetry now, I've started to make the image behind it, and I've been putting it on Instagram. I've been able to put it on my blog, and I think I'm getting a lot more hits when I put up the poetry pieces. Like I'm getting more subscribers with me posting up my work.
You know what? I'm getting more likes from my poetry too. I can't do the images because I don't. I could probably try to do the WordPress library, but I'm not really skilled at that. I mean, but I can't do images with my poems. But still, just the poems alone, I got like 8 or 9 likes.
Yeah.
I'd have to look back at WordPress. I got so many likes on my poetry.
I'm telling you, Ann, you got it. You got to keep doing it. I'm gonna keep challenging you now. Poetry month.
Kicking my butt into gear. Keep kicking my butt into gear because I need it. It's not only you, but like I said, I have another little surprise in my back pocket. Just teasing. I don't mean it that way, but still. And when I want to say no, I can't do this. I get this. Don't tell me you can't, because you proved to me you can.
That's that Holy Spirit. That Holy Spirit. Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing I'll tell you later.
But tell about let's see. Change how long file history. Your file history drive is full. I'm reading out what just popped up. So it's saying reduce the time. I'm wondering if it's our 40 minutes. Have we had 40 minutes and it cut us off? Or what does this error mean down here? I got an error. I know it says with the free version of Zoom, you get 40 minutes.
Hold on, I'm tapping.
Yeah, we probably reached our limit.
Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I know it says you can have unlimited meetings one-on-one and then up to 40 minutes for free. What I read, but I don't know. It may have cut off the recording, but I mean.
I think it cut us off, which is cool, because then what we can do is if it cuts us off, we can go back in and say, oh, there's a lesson learned, get a timer and set it up. So that way we can have like a 5-minute wrap up, like what if we learned through this process kind of thing.
Yeah, but you know what? We can also do that at the end of our podcast. We can record a segment at the end of our podcast about that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we can go back in and make one of those. So here's what Anchor does. Anchor tells me that it only will allow you to do 1-hour segments.
Baloney.
It's not, because I can do an hour and 7 minutes and it didn't cut off, but I had a fear that it was going to cut off. So like, for example, when Don and I were talking, I love Don too. The letting people down. He was a cemetery director and he was in the military. I love his book. I had him on the show. And when Donna Lisi and I were recording, I kept looking at the little timer in the corner, and I was so scared it was going to cut off. And I was like, okay, I'm going to call you right back. Well, then one day I forgot to look, and I was recording. I can't remember who it was with. And we just...
that one interview with Kay where you were still recording at the end of it, it was like an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, and it didn't cut off.
No, it didn't. And I kind of, I'm going to tell you now that we're not recording. Now
I think we're still recording.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
I heard a bit of a conversation I probably wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, you were the other